So I work in communications, which is so fun. Okay. I love working in communications, but what I've noticed is just because you work in communications does not mean you're a good communicator. And so that has been something that I have really, really desired to grow in for several years of my life. Okay. And I think a part of that is having just done a lot of therapy and counseling in a lot of areas of my life. And I enjoy therapy a lot. But there's something about just trying to focus on being a good communicator that I think is incredibly life giving to every single relationship you have. So that's what we're diving into today because communication impacts every aspect. Like you're always communicating with someone, okay? Whether it's yourself or other people. It's really helpful if you want to express yourself more clearly, deepen your relationships, or just stop overthinking every conversation you have. This episode's for you if you find yourself doing that, okay? Because I'll be sharing just a few simple practical tips to help you communicate with a lot of confidence, efficiency, and grace, okay? So, communication matters because literally in every aspect of your life, you will be communicating. Okay. Friends, family, work, faith, just everything. You're always communicating. I am communicating to you right now. Okay. And Proverbs 8, because I love to tie in some verses where we can. Proverbs 8:18-21. It says, the tongue has the power of life and death. Words carry weight, so much weight. They can be extremely encouraging, extremely life-giving, or they can be the death of you. Like literally you could just find yourself constantly misunderstood because of the way you communicate or hurting people, all of that. And it all comes down to how you communicate, okay? It's so, so important. So the foundation of good communication, I'm going to give a couple tips and then practical little mini tips on how to handle communication and then handling difficult conversations with grace. Okay. So the foundations, because again, your words carry so much weight, it's important to listen more than you speak, to be an active listener because that builds trust and respect. Okay. One of my favorite guys to listen to in podcast world, he's an entrepreneur. His name's Ed Milet. Really good tips on time management, really great, just general life tips. Okay. But that's all I got for you. Okay. He was talking about how he will go golfing with people and the whole time he is invested in asking them questions about their lives and stuff like that. And the people will leave the golf game with him. And then what he'll do is like whoever as a mutual friend will be like, oh, what'd you think of Ed? And they'll be like, oh, I loved him. He was great. And they're like, oh yeah, what'd you guys talk about? And they're always I guess, and they'll be like, what did you love talking to him about? Like, what did you, and then it always was about that person that he was with. And without fail, though, he is a fan favorite to golf with because everybody loves to have the space to feel heard and seen. It's not even that everyone just loves to talk about themselves. People love to feel seen. They want to feel valued. And there's a lot of ways that you can really intentionally make people feel valued is by body language, keeping your arms uncrossed, eye contact through as much of the conversation as possible, nodding along. There's like some people will say that you shouldn't use encouraging words like, or yeah, or I see, because it makes that person feel rushed. However, when people don't use encouraging words with me, when I'm talking, sometimes I feel like they're not listening, especially over the phone. Like I appreciate some mm-hms. Yeah, it just makes me feel like you're engaged with my story. So I'm going to push back on that a little bit and say I actually enjoy it. And I tend to give people that affirmation as they tell their story. So that is a huge way. Like I said, the eye contact, the leaning in, the nodding of the head, all of that is really, really key ways to make someone feel like you're actually engaged in what they're saying. Asking questions. Asking questions. Oh my gosh. Here's the thing. You do not know everything, and you know as much about yourself as you will anything else. But if you're talking to someone and you feel like you cannot figure out like what to say or it's really awkward and stuff, you don't know anything about that person unless you're married. You have so much to discover about the person next to you, about their family, about their hobbies, about their travel, about their work, about where they live or have lived, about where they want to go with their lives. All of these are conversations that you can have with that person. And there's always something ready. So always kind of having like a question loaded, especially after they share a story with you. If they're sharing a story with you, you should be actively listening and wanting to get clarity on things that you don't feel like you have clarity on, because that's how people know that you're invested in what they're saying. Okay. Now, with that, in order to make it not feel like you are rushing them or that you are weird with just like rapid fire questions, I do suggest a nice pause before you respond. I used to hate this because I despise awkward silence. But really, silence is made awkward by you, if we're being honest. Not everyone is completely awkward in silence. And there's actually a lot of like really powerful intentionality that can be used with silence. So pausing a moment once they finish to make sure that they're done talking and then asking your question, so key, so crucial, so lovely. And I also have noticed, and I love to do this now, when people tell me something or sharing a story, sharing experience, a belief, whatever it is, I don't jump in. Even when I think they're done talking, even when they probably should be done talking, if there's a pause, instead of saying something, I sit there and I look at them and I kind of tilt my head, like, please go on. And I kid you not, 9 times out of 10, they have more to say. They have more to process through with you. They're speaking out loud something. And that is just such a sweet way, a loving way to make space for them in the conversation, to let them know that they are seen, valued, heard, and that you want to hear more from them. And maybe you don't. Maybe you're so sick of the conversation. And like, I feel that. But it's a loving thing to do, to have reactive communication, because it makes them just feel trustworthy. It makes them feel trustworthy towards you. Okay. They feel like they can trust you. So that's really, really important. I also find that when just navigating these conversations, over explaining on your side will lead to more confusion. I hate nothing more than when something is being over explained. So what I stick with is a very clear and concise answer when I'm asked a question that says, then I'll follow it up with, okay, if you have questions, please let me know. Because acting like whoever you're talking to is stupid and doesn't know how to do XYZ is not okay. Like, you don't hear me often in a conversation over explain, because I hate when people over explain to me. I get it. Either I don't need to know all these details or I can figure it out. And let's say it's something really complicated that I do need all the details for. What's going to help me succeed most is asking questions. So as someone who is explaining something, telling a story, sharing anything, there is a level of over explaining that you got to avoid, and we all hate. Get to the point and then leave space for questions afterwards. That's kind of like a main thing for me. And then as someone who is telling a story, making sure that you are also keeping eye contact as the speaker and not just as the listener. Someone who is engaging with their body language as the speaker, not just listener. Use your hands to express yourself. Maybe it's looking away for a second and then looking back towards them. Whatever it is, there's facial expressions. All of this matters. All of this matters as the speaker and as the listener. And that is important. It's important to know how to do these things, because I think we've all talked to someone where it's like talking to a wall, or just been really exhausted by a conversation, and you don't really want to be the person that's exhausting someone else. I don't think any of us do. So that's important. Now, when you're having hard conversations, okay, because this is really, really great if you're meeting someone for coffee or just engaged in any everyday conversation. Difficult conversations are harder, okay? Because you have to stay calm and kind even when it's hard, because like Colossians 4:6 says, let your conversation always be full of grace. So to stay grace-filled is not necessarily the easiest thing in some areas. So just kind of like taking some breaths and trying to stay gentle. But with that being said, again, being clear and concise. Sometimes when we have hard conversations, what our natural is to lean into beating around the bush, of not really saying what you mean, of not really being involved in the actual bluntness of it. And as someone who is a class A beat around the bush person, like I do it all the time, what I'm really learning is that clarity is kindness. Okay. So lean into clarity. Don't fear the silence. I know I already said pausing is great. Pauses give space for that person to continue, but also for you to collect your thoughts and not feel like you have to answer every single thing that they said. And then also, again, clarifying questions are great here. So when you're having a hard conversation, specifically asking the question of what I hear you saying is helps you avoid any misunderstanding, miscommunication that can happen, because so many times what they're trying to say is not clear. And then what you're hearing is also skewed with your own biases. And now you two are on completely different paths where this could have been avoided. So if you just feel like a conversation is not going well, like pause and say, what I hear you saying is this, because maybe they are saying something outlandish and they need it repeated back to them to hear how crazy it is. Or you're misunderstanding something. So either way, it's really, really helpful to just kind of be able to do that. And then using I statements. So instead of saying, you never listen to me, you are stuck up, you are mean, whatever it is, and putting a lot of weight on them, turn it back to yourself, because you're not speaking on their behalf. So say, I feel unheard when. I feel like I'm disrespected when. You know what I mean? When you're addressing your own emotions, and that's not you being selfish in the conversation and not being focused on them. It's really you making sure that you're not speaking for that person, because that's irritating. So anyways, those are my kind of communication tips for you. Be interested. That's my last one, my main one. Genuinely be interested. You do not know everything in the world. You do not know everything about another person. All of that is still a mystery that is in front of you. And so if you genuinely act interested and are interested in another person, in their life, in their story, all of that, be interested. And it will help so much with all of that. So improving your communication skills is definitely not about being perfect, because trust me, there's a lot that I still miscommunicate and am not great at, but it is about being extremely intentional in your conversations. So start by applying a couple of these tips, and trust me, you'll see a difference. And really remember, your words carry so much power. So when you speak with love and wisdom, and you'll build stronger, healthier relationships. But if this helps you, a great way to practice communication would be writing a review. Ooh, that was smooth, right? That was a really smooth transition. Anyways, felt great about that one. But as always, I hope you stay inspired, keep living abundantly, love you lots, and have a great week.